Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Terry Toot, and welcome to Bite Time. And today's show will be called How the Data Flows. Today's show, we will talk about the implosion of data centers across the country with the cause and effect on communities. This is a very, very hot topic issue. Some communities want them there, some of them don't. And there's also issues where there's so much power generated that's making people's bills spike up. But we'll get into all that. We'll get into everything. We're going to talk about the necessary facts of all these data centers across the country. And we're going to tell you where some of them are, not the addresses, but the main focus of where they're located. All right. Also, some great news since I talked to these on the 23rd, excuse me. And not much else is going on, but we will make some dedications and remembrance. And other than that, let's come on back and have a great show. And guess what? Live that funk. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to Bite Time. And my name is Terry Toot. And today's show will be called How Data Flows. Once again, it's the show. This is kind of important. And we're going to talk about the implosion of data centers across the country with the cause and effect on communities. This has been a really hot topic issue that's been going on for the past, I don't know, for the past few years now. We're going to get into all that. But before we go any further, I want to send my deepest sympathy to the two children that were killed and that was just shot to death on August 27th. It was a mass shooting at the Church of Annunciation in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Um, and the perpetrator, the person who did it, killed two children, but there was other children, 18 children were injured, and three citizens. The stories you hear were horrifying. Older kids on top of the younger kids to save them. It goes to show you that you know the shooter drills are really, really important. But what they're saying, the kids didn't think it was going to happen in the church, which is kind of sacred. You know what I mean? But even though two people died, but the other kids were able to survive. 18 others were shot, and like I said, three senior citizens. And that class in the shooter drills that they have is really, really important. I did it. I did the test class, really did, and it's really important. And I'm going to say my deepest sympathy to the families of Fletcher Merkel, who was 8, and Harper Moisky, who was 10. Their lives are forever gone and shattered, but we're going to remember them, okay? And once again, my deepest sympathy to those two families, and also to the prayers to the 18 children that got shot, who got hurt, and the three senior citizens. From what I'm hearing, they're all going to survive, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know what? On that note, we really we gotta give them some applause. Because I was at work and I saw on the screen, CNN, um, Fox, and the BBC, and they're like, shooter, shooter. And it just horrifies you that I don't want to talk about political thing about the gun laws, but it's terrible how it's easier for a kid to get a gun than to have a driver's license or to buy a house. You figure that one out. And on that note, we're going to keep it moving. On a happier note, ladies and gentlemen, my nephew Kevin, I talk about him all the time here. He plays arena football for the Vegas Nighthawks. They won the Arena League. They won the Arena League championship. It was like the Super Bowl. So I am extremely happy. I watched the game. I barely kept my eyes open because it came on 10:30 here, 7:30 on the West Coast. So oh my God, they won it. And I just want to say congratulations to him and his teammates. Let's give them a round of applause. It's a lot of hard work, even though it's not the Super Bowl. But hey, they won the championship. I saw the trophy, and we're extremely proud and happy for them. Right, and all the other guys on the team. Okay, so on that note, we got that out the way. Let's talk about the data centers. You're probably saying, "What is he talking about?" Data centers, data center, data center. This is a thing, a very hot topic issue that's been around for a few years now, and where I live at in this area, there's parts of Virginia that have enormous amount of data centers. And if you're listening to this, if you don't know what a data center is, basically it's a building that has a bunch of computers, servers, networking equipment. Basically, what they do is they're doing computing on the off-site. Okay, so what you're doing is getting data, they're collecting data, processing, storing it, distribute vast amounts of data. Um, like enabling services like cloud computing, e-commerce, and AI. So that's why it is. Like you see, like a lot of big companies have them. Okay, we'll get into all that um, because they need places where they can store data. So if they need, say, for instance, a situation came up and they can go back into the servers and see, hey, on this date, blah 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 was located here. We're going to retrieve that data. All right. Same thing with cloud computing. Okay, we're going to put this here in this position in the cloud. Okay, or we have VM servers. Same thing. All right, but most of them that are using these data centers are the cloud computing and artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence started coming on in the last 2-3 years. Okay, they take up an enormous amount of energy because of computing that's involved in artificial intelligence. Okay, so they are amassing massive servers, co-locations. You have, um, you got to have the servers cooled at a certain temperature. That's another reason why and then you have to have all kind of computers. I mean, monitoring, making sure that if the alarms come on, find out what the issue is. Um, if there's something that goes wrong with one of the servers, the server might be replaced. A module might be replaced. Something simple, but you have to be there. Someone's be there or monitor it because these data centers are running 24/7, 7 days a week, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, like I said, these data centers are using mainly these artificial AI is using a lot of energy, and also cloud computing, also the Internet of Things. So if you're an Apple person, this is part of you also use a lot of data too. Okay. Even us clowns that use Android. Just really regular computations. Okay. But the reason why we're doing this is because everybody has some sort of data device, whether it be a cell phone, tablet, laptop, or your desktop. You need that data stored somewhere. Okay. Um, it's just not going to go, okay. So you delete it, you clear your cookies. All right. Where are those cookies going? They're going back into that server. Okay. That's something to think about. Where's all my information going? Boom, it's going to that server. I'm on the phone talking, text messaging. We have data. We're using so much data nowadays. It's unbelievable because it's a need to know access. It really is. And it's really, really taking a toll on people. We're going to get into all that even more. So that's why we have these splurging and robust implosion of data centers across the country, right? The data centers are located in certain areas of the United States. You know where they are. Northern Virginia, we'll get into that. Portland, Hillsborough, Oregon, New York, New Jersey, Seattle, and Los Angeles. The reason why these areas, because they're close to centers. Um, they also got tax breaks for this, affordable power, and also the business environment. They're like in a park. They're like in parks. So they have these areas that are not in the city, but off location in suburban areas. Okay. Um, like someplace like Silicon Valley is just like outrageously expensive. Okay. And they have limited space out there from what I'm told. But the reason why some of these data centers are built, like I said, you know, we need it because we have so much input and output of things that we need to store this information. Okay. So fiber optics. Okay. You run the fiber all through there. Okay. And that fiber is running through those servers. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. Servers are getting all the information. So you gotta have a cooling system that's in there. Okay. That's something real important to understand. Power. You're using a lot of electricity. All right. Also, the proximity to markets. Like I was saying, the markets I talked about. Northern Virginia is close to DC, Dallas, Phoenix, Atlanta, Chicago, Northern California, Portland, Oregon, New York, New Jersey area, Seattle, and Los Angeles. You have those areas are well populated areas, but also they're tech centers. So they have to have that. Also, another thing too that I haven't touched on is the real estate. You build these places in areas where the land is cheap, okay? And you got yourself a data center, okay? Tax incentives. So you build let's say, I'm just gonna make up a number, a $10 billion data center. Okay, so the town said, hey, why don't you build your data center here? We'll give you tax breaks on it. You think the billionaires are not gonna turn that down? Hell yeah. They're gonna jump on that. Okay. Also, another reason why data centers are built too, if you're near coastlines like here near Chesapeake River or um, near the Hudson River in Manhattan, you don't want to be built. You don't want to build anything nowhere close to that because all the storms have been happening lately. Next thing you know, you got a flooded data center, and it's going to be outrageously expensive to have that corrected. So in these cases, they're built away from flood zones and areas like that. Okay, and also buildings that are now vulnerable to hurricanes. Now we've had hurricanes here in Maryland. There's hurricanes in New York and New Jersey, but they're rare. Not saying they don't happen. It's rare. Okay. Um, like I said, most of the people that are using these data centers are like your Google Cloud, uh, Amazon, okay, AWS, Microsoft Azure. That's cloud computing, okay? And they also co-location centers also, um, Equinox, it's unbelievable what some of these people are using. And another thing too, people thinking, oh, these data centers are bringing in a lot of jobs. They're really not. That's the thing. They're really not bringing out a lot of jobs because it's a man team that's 24/7, but um, basically the saying what they're saying is they could do them themselves. So it's like a limited team of people. All right. Even though, like I said, because the years have gone on and data centers are popping up, they're not like they're not a factory, but you could say they are a moving place because you always had to monitor the servers. You got monitor the temperatures on the servers, okay, and your colo sites. You got to mount that, right? Check your network and your fiber, okay. Check the PCs that are monitoring everything from your fiber going into your computers at a desk or in a location, all right. And some of the jobs that come out are the data center technician, okay, servers and routers, switches, you know, ensuring that infrastructure is running good. Okay. Data center engineer, this person is really the guts of the focus of the data center. Okay. Designs, implements, monitors IT systems, um, all inside that data center. Okay. And then you have a facilities manager, a data center facility manager. He oversees everything, including the maintenance of the facility. So that's really important to understand. Okay. Like I said, there's not that many jobs. There's indirect jobs, construction, the manufacturing, installing the servers. And after that, there's always another person that can handle that. Okay. Um, we just already talked about the hyperscalers, which is the cloud providers, AWS, Google, and Microsoft Azure. They doing all that, taking care of that stuff there. AI technology we talked about, that's heavily invested in some of these data centers. Okay. There's an economic competitiveness side to this. Okay. Um, Governments view data centers as vital infrastructure for national digital transformation and tracking investment and fostering innovation in emerging technologies. Well, that's exactly what we're talking. Emerging technologies would be Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, AI, any chatbots, that type of thing. Another thing, and too important, data centers are immensely, immensely important for national security and data sovereignty. Most definitely. Say, for instance, you had a site, you had a building, okay, and you know your data is going from the server, okay, from your location to a WAN network to a server, and it's being stored on those servers, right? But all the information servers going to a data center. What's important here is that sometimes there's extremely sensitive information on those servers, and they need the data centers to manage that and control it and have that security built into it. And that's another reason why data centers are real important. Okay, because you can't just go in there and say, I'm going to take this, or you got to have, or guys or whatever hackers that can get in there. There's preventions, there's ways that they can't get into those data centers. But because of the national security, it's going to be extremely only people that can have access to those areas will be entitled to that information. Okay, but it's really really important that national security definitely uses data centers. Okay, um, it could be for many things, strategic, um, all kind of data, sensitive data. These data centers definitely have it on here. Um, it's real important to understand that, and that's why a lot of data centers, some of them, you know, they're just really big, but you can't just walk in there. Oh hell no! It is got security that you wouldn't believe. So don't even think about it, unless you go in there to work or you making a delivery, and then they'll check you out prior to that. Like I said, there's a major investment in these data centers. Like I said, the thing that's driving it is AI. AI, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to say it, I don't like it that much because it makes people lazy. Okay. But it's big, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay, ladies and gentlemen. But there's a lot of money involved in it. That's another reason why a component in AI is not going anywhere. There's just too much money involved. And like I said, you need a lot of power to run these data centers. Um, but there's major problems though. There are major problems, ladies and gentlemen. You have environmental issues, community challenges. It uses a lot of energy. I just said that earlier, and water consumption because you got to keep those coolers, those that area cool. Okay, so it's using a lot of water. Okay, a lot of water to keep those servers cool. You know what I mean? So that's something that it's really really important. And a lot of people are saying, "Hey, what's going on here? These buildings are really running my bill up." And it's, it's too late because some people in the town agreed to it. They go in front of a board and they're like, "Hey, blah 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 blah. We need this." So now this is the cause and effect. The cause is you're using a lot of water. The effect is making your bill go up higher, right? A lot of water to keep the cooling systems running properly. Okay. And then you have an issue of greenhouse gas emissions. This is something people know they don't talk about this. Okay. Using fossil fuels, pollutants, all that stuff. And you're using a lot of generators too, diesel generators. And that brings up a lot of greenhouse and gas emissions into your air. So now you used to have a pristine, clean air. Now you have multiple, diesel fuel lines, diesel fuel to keep those generators running. And that's something that no one ever thought about, but you should have thought about that when you gave the okay. But it's too late now. What it is, what it is, and they're not going anywhere. All right, let's play a little music here. Nice, pretty green area. All those majority of those trees are chopped down to make way for these data centers. All right. Um, it's really something. Oh, another thing too, we didn't talk about hardware upgrades. Where are you going to take that old hardware, old servers, routers, old fiber? Okay. So you got to collect that. That's got to be shipped out and dumped someplace else. That's another cause. Okay. Land use. We talked about this earlier. You're going to use a lot of land. The data centers are extremely large, ladies and gentlemen. All right. People don't like the noise from them. Okay. The servers, the fans, cooling fans, the generators, you can hear those. Okay. We talked about the water, uses a lot of water, keep those generators cooled. And then you got to worry about, the price of housing now. Housing is going to go up now because of these data centers. They're extremely big. They're making a lot of money for companies. So some people are saying that, oh, you're bringing my house, the price of my house down. No, they're not. They're bringing them up to a point where you're not going to be able to sell it if you want to sell it. Okay. And like I said, it's just something that's here. And how they're going to figure out to get it done better, I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. Well, I'm going to give you a listing of some of the data centers around my area in New York and New Jersey. Okay. So in Virginia alone, they have a total of 636 data centers. Let me repeat that. 636 data centers. Now, the majority of them are in Northern Virginia. And let me just go down real quick. And the majority of them are in areas of the extreme. This area of Virginia is very wealthy. Ashburn, extremely wealthy. They have 150 data centers. I've been by them. Verizon has one big one. Holy cow, that was big. Sterling, Virginia, which is right down the street from Ashburn, 110. Um, Frederick, Maryland, Fredericksburg, Virginia, that's on 95. They have 42. Gainesville, which is in that area too, 29. Dulles, which is right Dulles, Dulles, Ashburn, and Sterling. They're all in the same area. Okay, not too far from the airport. 33. Um, and the rest of them are in rural areas. Okay, that goes to show you. And I watch the news here, and people complain about why are you building this here? Who authorizes? They have to go through towns. They got to go through the state, get approval But once they find out that it was a secret deal done, people are raising hell about it. And I hate to say that, but when the deal's done, when you go through the local board or you go through the state comes down, they check it out. That's something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. These data centers are making a lot of money. In the future, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know. I don't know. And also, too, ladies and gentlemen, it takes. Remember, I was saying that the price of your energy bills going up. It's definitely gonna. That's definitely. That's not gonna change. Okay, that's not gonna change because the grid, electrical grid, right now is so tied up between houses. Okay, you talk about data centers. You still got regular buildings, schools. Okay, now you got hybrid cars or electric cars, the Teslas and other cars like that. That's another strain on the grid, electrical grid. Okay, and you wonder why the price is going up. There you go. So I don't know if there's something they could do where the grid is not being maxed. Because right now the grid is being. I wouldn't be surprised within the next year or so there's a blackout. Power goes down. I wouldn't be surprised because there's so much strain because of everything we have, including myself. Okay, look, I got lights on here. I got my use of my computer. TV's on downstairs. Okay, the AC is on. That's just my little place. Don't forget, there's thousands of other houses around here. Okay, washing machines. I'm not even talking anything about the data centers. We're talking normal everyday use. And it's going to come down. Either you're going to have to do something with the grid, or I don't know, or cut back on the data centers. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Okay, data centers here in the area where I live at. I mean, the state of Maryland is only 44, right? But a lot of those companies that I told you about in Northern Virginia, they're getting the data from information from here, probably processed and put over there in those data centers. There's only 44 here in the state. And Frederick, Maryland, which is out in the woods, they have the most. Baltimore has 14. All the rest of them had 2, 1, Laurel, Rockville, only 44. There are other places in the country um, that have data centers, but and another thing, the cost of data centers are going up. Okay, because we have so much demand of data. You know, like I said, we're using cell phones, with texts, sending pictures, computers, we're sending emails all the time, or we're downloading songs or whatever. That's a strain on the grid. Okay, and these data centers are storing all most of those majority of the information. And like I said, data centers are not going anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. This because of all the data we have, it just matriculates, gets bigger and bigger, and we need these storage facilities. All right. I feel that the electrical grid we have, especially this East Coast corridor, I hate to say this, but it's gonna happen one day. We're not gonna have any power. It happened to me before, 20 years ago. No power. But they had to build like a new power plants, new transmission lines they really need to do. Figure out ways so the flow where housing, power from those data centers and not driving up our cost of our power bill, but figure out a way that the grid could, equally balance the power between the data centers and our electrical bill. And I don't think it's going to happen. And yeah, it's not gonna change, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's here to stay. Also, um, DC has 20 data centers. Also, DC 20. The data centers across. Let's go New York and New Jersey. Um, New York as a whole. Now I said New York State, but I'm looking at some of the locations. So, to some of you that are not familiar, when they say New York, but they pointing to data centers and Secaucus and places like that. So, New York data centers, there are 243 data centers across in the state, is what they're saying here online. Okay. State of New Jersey, they have a total of, let's see, 82 data centers. Okay. So it goes to show you basically neighboring states have almost 300 um, data centers combined. Um, they're all over the place. Stay in New York, and like I said, they're used for every, especially in New York. Because you got Wall Street down there. You have a lot of brokerage firms pushing a lot of data with numbers and everything like that. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the data centers aren't going anywhere. They're going to be here for a long, long time, ladies and gentlemen, and we just have to bear it and say, you know what, it's here. We just have to deal with it. But we said, is there a cause and effect? Yes, it's making your bill go higher, but we'll have to one day. We'll get together with these IT companies, and then with the people that live in these communities, and sit down and figure out a way where the power from these data centers can figure out another source to utilize it to keep them running, because they got to keep them running 24/7 without trickling down to our electrical bills. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave the show. I hope you enjoyed talking to me, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I will do a show on Friday because I'm going to a jazz festival, possibly on Saturday. So that's why I'm doing the show Friday. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. Take care, be well, and enjoy music. Lighter than air, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.